Exacto, pero...
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Dead Air, a horror podcast.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dead Air, a horror podcast. Before we introduce you to our guest, I'd like to remind everyone to please check the description of this episode so that you can use our affiliate links and you can check out our Facebook group. So we have a Facebook group called Dead Air, a horror fan page, which you can be a part of so that you can share your favorite horror stories, your favorite horror shows, movies, books, anything horror related to a group of people who are like-minded, also like horror. We also have a Facebook page for this podcast, which is Dead Air, a horror podcast, which you could like. And we also have, last but not least, our Instagram at Dead Air Pod. So if you have any inquiries or if you have any suggestions on how to make this podcast better, please message the Instagram at Dead Air Pod. So today we actually have a returning guest, and the person to explain why we have a returning guest will be Chris, who will introduce himself as well.
Oh, will I? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Chris. I'm your second host. For everyone who's probably who hasn't heard this podcast, I am the horror obsessive among the main hosts, and yeah, absolutely love horror. And I'm here with my co-host Aaron, and for this episode we've got two new voices.
Ooh.
Actually, not just our guest, but we've got another co-host. Aaron,
Another
did you know
co-host, yes, a sub for our co-host, who is probably less scared than our original co-host, and who will probably be able to summarize it better. We'll see.
Oh, wait. Whoa. I promised no such thing.
Well, we just did.
We just did.
Oh,
so we'd like to introduce
no.
our third co-host for tonight, Maui. Hey, Maui.
PV edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. Maui here. I am the third host for tonight. I am obviously not Miguel, but I will try to fill in his substantial shoes. I am not a horror fanatic, but neither am I a scaredy cat. At least I wouldn't like to think so. I am a horror medium. And tonight with us, we have, so I guess I'm going to be the one introducing our guest.
Sige,
Tonight
go.
we have with us, filmmaker and former, no, wait. I did not, how am I supposed to, I'm so out of this na.
Okay lang yan, Maui. Okay lang yan, Maui.
Yeah.
We're here to have a good time. Well, you know what?
Yeah,
I
I know.
realized I didn't introduce myself. I am Aaron, one of the hosts. I like horror movies for the thrill that it gives and the feeling that it gives. And I learn a little bit more about the intricacies of film from my two co-hosts, usually, who like to talk a lot about, I don't know why my voice is like this when I talk about them liking film. But yes, they explain it very well, so I'm learning a lot. And of course, we have, like we mentioned earlier, our returning guest. And the reason for this is, Chris.
Well, first of all, he's our first returning guest. So
Bam.
Yes.
it's pretty funny. He was one of the very first guests when we started this podcast. And I personally felt after that episode, because when we started the podcast, we were kind of we're obviously very, we're newbies, we're very green.
Woo.
And then we were after every single episode, we'd be like, shit, yeah, that was I think we can do this. Yeah, it's okay. But after our episode with this guest, we were like, oh yeah. I think we've kind of cleared the bump in the road, and then we can kind of coast, because I think we really kind of got what this show is. That's what I felt personally. So
And how long ago was that, by the way? How long ago
close
was that
to a
episode?
year ago, and I think
Close to a
when
year
this
ago.
episode comes out, it will be exactly a year since then.
Nice.
And there's a lot has changed. Our format has changed. Our hosting duties have changed. What else? We have gotten rid of Miguel, thankfully. What else has changed? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. Maui, do you want another shot at this, or Aaron, do you want to take this?
Let's
Aaron
give Maui
should
another
take this.
No, let's just give another chance.
I'll summarize.
Ayan. Kaya natin to. We're in this together. Let's go, Maui.
Okay. Oh my God.
You can do this. You can do
So
this.
excited.
So without further ado, I would like to introduce our next guest. He is a director and a writer, and according to his IMDb, he is most well known for the movies like The Last One, The Tunnel, and Sunod. Let's all welcome Carlo Ledesma.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go.
Hi guys. Wow, I didn't realize that when you guys invited me that I was going to be like the first return guest. So let me just say I'm super honored for that. And also let me just say I've been listening to the podcast ever since we did our Jaws one. Has it been a year? Jesus. Was it a year ago?
Is that crazy? Is that crazy?
And
this is going to be like episode
that's amazing.
50 something.
Yeah.
And you were
50
episode
something.
4.
Yeah. So cool. And yes, Chris, I just want to say I have noticed like over the course of the episodes I've been listening to you guys, like, you know, I did like kind of like sense the growth that you guys have had as like hosts. You know, the timbre in your voice is kind of like evolved as you went along. Yeah. There's a bit more of like an octave of confidence there. No. And all seriousness aside, like you guys, have had such a great roster of guests and talking about like such great horror films. And yeah, you guys are like my guilty pleasure, man. So thank you so much for having me back. And I shared the same sentiments. Like when we finished that first podcast about Jaws, I remember, like hit me up anytime you guys want to talk more, because it was so much fun. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, we'll expect this in another year if we're still alive. If the Philippines hasn't burned down, we're definitely gonna ask you back again for. I think you have a bunch of movies you want to talk about. But,
absolutely, yeah.
I'm excited about this movie that you brought us today.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Cool. Yep. Nice.
So let's ask you about it. Why did you choose this movie for us to watch?
Okay, so the film that I'm bringing to the podcast is something that I hold dear, only because it was the film that came to me in my I wasn't a teenager anymore. It came to me in my very let's call it very early 20s. And it was the seminal film for me that kind of like reinvigorated my love for horror. And okay, like to show you how much I listen to your podcast, like Chris, I know for a fact that The Descent was the film that kind of like brought you like full circle and back home towards horror. So this film that I'm going to be talking about with you guys was that for me. That film is a 2002 film directed by one of my favorite filmmakers, Danny Boyle, called 28 Days Later.
Yeah, awesome. And I love it. It was my first time to see it, and I really enjoyed it. And before we start talking about it, Maui.
Yeah.
Would you like to
yes,
break it down? Summarize.
Okay. All right. I last watched this last year. I love this film also. Some of those finer details have been lost to bad memory, but I'll try my best. But before I continue, I'll just correct something you said earlier. We did not have Carlo last year. We had him 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
No.
Oh my God.
2019. 2020. Yes.
2020. September 2020.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Time flies, guys.
Time really does fly.
Time flies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So the film, to try to summarize the film, the film begins in this unknown biotech laboratory where these bioterrorists enter with the intent of freeing lab animals. And one of the terrorists find this door marked unsafe or hazardous. So he opens it. Let's free some animals, and apparently the animals have this virus called rage, which kind of like rabies. If you are infected, turns you into this rage zombie, as we would see later on in the film. And then we cut to 28 days later, 28 days after the start of the infection, we cut to a very naked Cillian Murphy lying down on
Very naked.
Very naked.
very naked. Yeah,
Yep.
very naked. Yep. Lying down on a surgery table, apparently left there by the doctors who were operating on him. I forgot why. Like, was he in an accident? But anyway,
Yes.
I remember that
Yeah.
he was a bike. So I remember that he's a bike courier, and he keeps on saying that throughout the movie. I'm a bike courier. I'm just a bike courier. So he's just this everyman who wakes up in the middle of post-apocalyptic London. So he goes around, and at the start, he walks around very, very eerily empty London. No one's around, and then he slowly finds out through newspapers and posters on the wall, through the damage done by the apocalypse, that something has happened, and he meets up with fellow survivors. What's her name? So his name is Sam. Selena and Michael, correct? So so he meets up with these two survivors, Selena and Michael, who help him out, and he teach him the ropes of surviving, like as much as possible. Get protein, not just sugar. I remember that.
Yes. Good tip.
And but he, being just woken up, he wants to check up on his folks. So that's the first thing that he wants to do. So he insists that, hey, I want to see my folks. So he goes. The trio go to his house, his home. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
And then during the course of their travel, Michael is infected. So Celine has to kill Michael, and with the lesson pa na this is the end of the world. You have to fend for yourself, stuff like that. And then so it's just Sam and Celine traveling, and then in their travels they find this blinking lights off in the distance, and they event in one of the many apartments in London. They go to that, and they meet up with this father and daughter. See.
Frank
And
Hannah.
Harriet.
Frank and
Hannah. Frank and Hannah.
Frank and Hannah, who are tumor survivors. So they them being kind souls bring them into their apartment, and then hijinks. They hear this radio transmission that there are soldiers several miles that away. Like north, south, but like away from the city, that there are survivors here. We are armed. This is how to survive the outbreak, blah, blah, blah. And so when they finally get there, because Frank is infected by a drop of blood that hits his eye, he has to die. They were already there at where the soldiers were. So a soldier appears to kill Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out, so the Frank, Hannah, and Celine are taken in by the soldiers. And when we find out that these soldiers are kind of unhinged and they want to repopulate the earth, so they end up drugging the women. Or is it Helene who ends up drugging the women?
Selena.
Selena. So anyway, so that she would not feel the pain of being, anyway, can't even say it. And then, of course, Sam, being Sam, objects, and slowly, because he's the good guy, and he is a good guy, he causes some of the soldiers to doubt, like this lieutenant. Is that right? Like this lieutenant doubts the group's decision to do things this way. So in the resulting chaos of two of the soldiers wanting to execute. The decision was to execute Sam, but in the ensuing chaos, Sam escapes and he frees. I forgot. The soldiers have a captive zombie in their midst as they're trying to study how the virus affects a person, how long the virus lasts, and if the infected do indeed die from starvation. Because this is Danny Boyle created this realistic world where even though these are zombies that work within the limits of our reality. It's rabies. It's Ebola. It's apparently the virus was based on how Ebola affects humans and how, like, physically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So Sam, in his attempt
Jim,
to
I think his name is Jim. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
sorry.
I didn't
Jim,
want
Jim.
to. I didn't want to interrupt you. You were nailing everything spot on, except the guy's name is Jim, not Sam.
Okay. Sorry. So Jim attempts to rescue the girls, and in part of the plan is freeing the zombie, captive zombie, and the captive zombie turns everyone in the base where the soldiers are. And Christopher Eccleston, I can't believe I forgot that. Christopher Eccleston is the leader of the soldiers. And as Jim, Celine, and Hannah start to leave the base, Christopher Eccleston shoots Jim in the stomach, and then Hannah, who was driving the car, was in the car, backs it up, and then the soldier was in. Anyway, but so long story short, Christopher Eccleston's character dies. Jim and the two girls get to escape, and depending on which ending you prefer, they either get rescued by the Finnish Air Force like weeks later when they're in this really colorful countryside, or in the alternate version, you have Jim succumbing to his wound from the gunshot wound, and you have the two girls walking off into the distance into an unknown future. Yes.
I didn't know there was an alternative ending.
There were several.
There's an
actually,
There's several.
There's a third. There's a third.
And I think they all
unshot
die. He dies in every single one.
Yes, that's right. Well, we can talk about the different endings later, actually. But well done.
First of all, Carlo, what do you think of that? How would you grade Maui's summary?
I feel like I've watched the whole film all over again.
With Sam, Sam was such a good.
But with a guy with a guy named Sam. No,
it's the remake. It's the remake.
It's a remake.
The remix.
Nice one, Maui. Yeah, cool.
Very well done, Maui. Very well done.
Very well done.
Although I think I missed out on a lot of
That's
fine.
I missed
out on a lot of
that
details.
you did watch the movie, unlike someone like Miguel, who probably would not have. Yeah, we're gonna spend the whole episode ragging on Miguel.
Yes, a significant. We decided before we press record that a significant amount of this episode would be ragging on the one who is not here.
Si Burger.
Before we start the discussion, do you guys know how similar this is? The premise is to The Walking Dead.
Oh, I was thinking A Quiet Place.
The start of The Walking Dead.
Yeah. The
wakes
sheriff
up
even
from a
wakes
coma.
up the same way.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
To a zombified world.
That's right.
But and they came out, the comic, by the way, not the movie.
Yes.
But the comic and this one came out at very similar time. I'm not sure, but I think it's very, very close. I don't know. It's kind of like the Hollywood thing when like just creative juices somehow, make you have like similar ideas. No, it is coincidence. Just kind of like something like Ants and Bugs Life or Armageddon and Deep Impact coming up at the same time. But it's just so bizarre that zombies were not popular at this time, 2002. I really think this movie actually kickstarted the zombie renaissance.
Yeah, it's credited for reinvigorating the zombie genre, and that's why I love it so much, and I credit it to kind of like rekindling my love not just for the zombie genre but for horror films in the same way that Descent was for you, and that's why I was excited to talk to you guys about it tonight. So my story with 28 Days Later, like my sort of experience with it was this came out in the year 2002, and I was already working on a TV show at the time, and doing little short films, like shooting little clips here and there. So I was very much, I guess you could say, just like like a fresh out of college, in the filmmaker wannabe / producer kind of guy. So I was very much already into movies, as I always have been. But throughout the years, I found myself kind of like sort of veering away from horror because like going to college, I started watching all these different types of genre films. So I was more into other genres at the time. But when 28 Days Later came out, and I remember seeing the poster, and it was just this striking bright red poster, right? That was like, it had a biohazard sign, and it didn't have any faces on it, but just a pair of yellow eyes, and it just said, 28 Days Later. And then what struck me about it is that there was a sign that said, or a tagline that said, from the director of Trainspotting. And I was like, oh, okay, done.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what this movie is, like based on the ambiguity of this poster. Like it looks like a horror film, but whatever, it's from the director of Trainspotting, I'm in. I'm so back then, as I still am now, I was such a huge Danny Boyle fan. I had seen Shallow Grave, I had seen Trainspotting. So hearing that the director of those films was coming out with a horror film really got me excited. So I was able to watch it, and to be honest, I don't recall if I watched it in a cinema first or if I watched a bootleg version of it because I couldn't wait. But I do remember seeing it and being so blown away by it for a couple of reasons. One is that it presented a new version of zombies to me, which I'd never seen. Although a lot of horror,
a lot of people call it sacrilegious.
Yeah, a lot of people will argue against the fact that technically, the monsters that we see in 28 Days Later aren't zombies. Me personally, I prefer not to overthink it. To me, they are zombies only because. Yeah, I mean, if we were to sort of be literal and look at what zombies are traditionally defined as, which is like they're meant to be sort of reanimated corpses who come back from the dead. But what Danny Boyle did in 28 Days Later was he took inspiration from the Romero films, like him and Alex Garland, the writer, right?
Yeah.
They took inspiration from that and they put their own spin on it and said, look, what if the characters or the creatures that we create aren't dead corpses that reanimate, but rather something that feels a bit more grounded and real, which is like what you said, Maui, like an offshoot of an Ebola virus. So in this particular story, it's called the rage virus. So that struck me. So the other thing that they decided to do, which I found very interesting, was not to make the zombies in this film slow or meandering or which were the zombies that I'd seen in older movies when I was a kid. And as a result, I didn't really find them as scary as like the other monster movies that I watched, because I was like, here's 10-year-old me saying, well, they're kind of slow. You can just run, but the werewolf? No, you're dead. But there's a really awesome scene in 28 Days Later when the character of Cillian Murphy, Jim, enters a chapel and he sees just like hundreds of dead bodies like littered all over the pews, which is such like almost looks like a Renaissance painting. And as he yells out, hello, a couple of them look up and you realize, oh shit, like there are actually a couple of zombies still feeding and looking up at him.
And the way they looked up.
And they look up at him like cats being startled, and they don't move. And what makes that scene so much more terrifying is just you start to hear like thumping footsteps, like running up towards where Jim is. And then bam, this door opens and you see the silhouette of what appears to be a priest. And you realize, oh shit, it is a priest because we're in a church. And then Jim starts saying, hello, Father, and this priest, and it's still so etched in my mind, the way this priest starts to move, almost like in a rabid kind of like spastic. Herky jerky was something that just kind of like terrified me so much at the time, because it's like, wait a minute, is this thing fast? And then it starts running towards Jim. Like, holy crap, it's fast. And just like that, I was introduced to the world of running zombies. And I know, and I apologize, I know a lot of zombie purists hate running zombies, but personally, I love them only because for the first time in my life, I was exposed to something or to a different type of zombies that felt fresh. And that also to me felt like, God damn, I can run as fast as I can, but these things can catch me.
Yeah.
So that to me and from that moment on, I was hooked. And I said, okay, I'm in on this story. Let's see where this journey goes. Let's see where these characters are. So that was it. That was the main hook for me in the sense that I felt that Danny Boyle, the director of Trainspotting, and Alex Garland were able to create a fresh take on something that, like you said, Chris, was kind of like stagnant for I think a decade. No, like there was so much more focus on other types of movie monsters or horror genres. But I'd like to think that 28 Days Later is has a big hand in creating or is a big reason on why zombie films are so popular now. I would even argue that there's even been a bit of zombie fatigue.
Yes,
I would say maybe in the last couple of years. I disagree because I will continue to love zombies no matter what. But I have been hearing that wherein people like, no, what zombie films naman. But then you have all these films and series on Netflix that are about zombies, and there has to be a reason why people love that genre. And I'd love to pick your brains as well as to why you think that is. Why do you think? I personally have my own reasons, which I would love to share. But I'd love to also hear your thoughts as to why you think the zombie genre is popular. Yeah.
I actually dated someone who truly believed that there would be a zombie apocalypse, and he would always talk about it and like seriously make like a zombie go bag.
Oh yeah.
It's
yeah.
It's meron kayo, no? You have go bags, no, for zombies.
no. But one of our guests and our good friend si Diego Castillo, major zombie fan. He was talking about he went on our sister podcast and he was talking about Army of the Dead, which is a horrible zombie movie. But he was like talking about his obsession with zombies and how whenever he's in a new house or a new place, he will always look for the exit. And then when he moves into a new house, he'll always be like, okay, how will I maximize this space so I can, number one, protect my area and also give me a way to get out. Like, so yeah, I understand that.
He's basically the lead character in Zombieland. Yes,
exactly. He's like rule number 6, cardio.
He's the rule guy.
Yeah.
So Jago. So is Jago a fan of the running zombies?
He is. I do not think he is, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Romero is his absolute favorite director, I think.
And absolutely deserved because and thanks. And because of that, thanks to 28 Days Later, it made me fall in love with zombies and kind of like sparked the love, which I didn't know I had. And then I was now able to go back and watch the Romero stuff and have a deeper appreciation for what they were. And I realized, oh crap, no, the point of those zombie films wasn't to make them scary in the traditional monster movie sense. Like you realize that the Romero films and a lot of zombie films actually have so much more to say than just that. There's actually a deeper cultural, a deeper cultural root or rooting behind what those stories are supposed to be. And like you said, for me, that's what zombie movies are. It's about us as humans and humanity.
Yeah.
So
and they mentioned that a bit in this movie, that it's people killing people.
It's the people.
Yes.
That's a great monologue, by the way.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I also love the fact that the rage virus, the origin of the rage virus is they just made a monkey watch humans.
Yeah.
And then he just goes crazy because he's like, these fucking people. Like humanity drives him insane.
I can't believe I evolved into you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Right?
Yeah. And it comes full circle at the end too. Like, Arkney Jim is like, he will not kill. He just can't. And then he rages out at the very end and he kills someone.
Yes.
And that's yeah. So
that's right. And the other reason why I got so obsessed with that film in 2002 is that I'm gonna, Aaron, forgive me, I'm gonna get really geeky and get a bit technical.
Please.
Here. Is
She
You're gonna
says she
learn.
doesn't like it,
Teach
but I'm
me.
telling you, she
No, no.
enjoys it.
No,
I absorb it.
because at the time I was working as a producer, and so being a producer and slash filmmaker wannabe, I had invested, and then I had like my own sort of camera. And my camera at the time, and I'm sure Chris knows what this camera is because he was also doing films, was a Canon XL1.
And
And
XL1.
everyone wanted that
Yeah.
camera. My
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that was my dream camera. Oh my
it was a
God,
Canon XL1.
white and red,
Dude, it was. I was
prime lenses.
I was fortunate enough to have it, and I was using it for my work, and I was using it to shoot, short films, music clips, and. Tama, diba, Chris? At the time, that was kind of like what the camera.
That was top of the line. Yeah, that was
No,
top of the line.
The line.
I wouldn't say top of the line because I would say it was the prosumer. It wasn't a
Prosumer,
professional
yeah. Sorry. For
Yeah.
Not
it
top
was-
of the line for filmmaking, but like for prosumer.
It was basically
Yeah.
a souped up camcorder, right? So it had that fine line between being relatively high quality but still being accessible for indie filmmakers to do on like on music videos.
Yes.
I'm sure tons of the stuff that came out like on MTV Philippines and you were
All
shot,
XL1.
probably shot on the
Yep.
XL1,
All
Yeah.
of it.
right? So okay, so
Aaron is so.
Yeah, the
Right,
people
Aaron,
listening to
right?
this
I know,
are
right?
missing out so much on Aaron's.
Yeah.
No, I
action
agree.
figure.
I agree. It was the
Yes.
top of
Right.
the line.
yeah,
The red.
dude, yeah,
and
super.
white.
So we had in our batch, Carlo, we had 2 people who got an XL1.
Okay.
And my God, everyone was just like, Holy Grail.
Yeah, everybody used those cameras or borrowed those cameras.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
so
remember.
I don't know if you remember. Yeah, of course you remember Mo from
Okay. I have a funny
Mosey,
I have a funny Mosey story because him and I we actually
Okay.
watched 28 Days Later kind of together, and we were both.
Oh yeah, he loves that movie.
It's
Yes,
so
yes,
interesting
yes,
that you bring up Mo because we were shooting and editing stuff together. Like I would shoot stuff and I would go to his house and we would edit. And I remember that we both had XL1s, so we would do 2 cam setups together. And we both got obsessed with 28 Days Later because for that exact fact that we couldn't get over the fact that Danny Boyle, the guy that did Train Spotting, and at the time he had already done The Beach, if I'm not mistaken, with Leonardo DiCaprio, and here he was shooting, his next film on something that we were using, on something that indie filmmakers were kind of using. So
Yeah.
for me, that just blew me away, and so I obsessed about like the process of why did he do that? And then when I read up on it, I realized that it was a budgetary thing. They wanted to use most of the budget to go for this gigantic gas station explosion, which happens in like the first part of the film. The main reason why they had to shoot with those XL1 cameras was because
The highway shot.
yes, 28 Days Later is also very much known. Well, it was known at the time for being the movie that shut down gigantic
London,
parts of London
Oh.
at the time. So if you watch the film, Jim wakes up and like what Maui said, he's in this abandoned hospital, and as he goes out into London, he realizes that he's pretty much like the only person left. And for the filmmakers to accomplish that, they had to I've never been to London, but apparently like the sheer logistical act of shutting down the bridge in front of Big Ben and all these different like sort of key places was so expensive that they realized that they couldn't accommodate the logistics of that and having to shoot all of that with film cameras. So they made a decision to be like, well, you know what? Let's shoot on these Canon XL1s, and since it's a horror film, it's gritty. It'll serve the tone of what we're after as well. So they made a decision to do that. So which I think was a great call because now you've got such an iconic first sequence wherein Jim walks around London, and to this day, it's still one of the most iconic,
unmatched
scenes, right? Like how hard it is, how beautiful is that? Set to that beautiful score, and then so being a young filmmaker at the time and seeing a movie that was shot on a camera that I had access to was something that was just so inspiring, na parang, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of blurred the lines. It just made that next step feel a little bit more accessible. It made, it made closer. It just made a lot of filmmakers my age realize that, hey, there's no excuse. We don't need 35 millimeter cameras to shoot something, So I think that kind of triggered, and at the time, that's when all these other digital cameras were coming in, the Panasonic DVX100, all these other new cameras were starting to come in. And later on, the Canon, of course, had their 5D. So digital cinema was still kind of at its infancy. And I think when 28 Days Later came out, it made so many people. Yeah, it made so many people so much more inspired to kind of just, shoot shit, and just
absolutely.
Because, if Danny Boyle thinks, a mini DV camera is good enough to shoot a feature film, then we have no excuse. Then let's go out and tell a story. So that's what really kind of like, made me fall in love with the movie. Is that it inspired me. It inspired me so much then beyond being just a horror film and making me love scary movies again. Yeah. So
it was the filmmaking behind it.
Yeah. And
awesome.
It's still so well shot. It's so funny. Like you said, wait a minute. I thought I rented the 1080p version. Like I think we can watch a restored 4K version of it, and sad to say, it'll still look the same way. Which I think for me, it works. How interesting is that the phones we're using now has so much more resolution than the XL1? How crazy is that?
It's crazy,
right? Like we can shoot a much better looking film than what that XL1 did, but on our phones, right? And yet people still talk about 28 Days Later. It wasn't the tool that was used. It was the story. It was the characters. Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris were unknowns at the time, and look where they are now.
Yeah.
So
she's in James Bond. And
when I watched it, I was like, oh, so it's in England. All right. So I guess it's because I didn't know anything.
It's a British horror film.
It's British, right? So I watched it. And then it was that naked shot of Cillian Murphy. I was like, oh, it's this guy. See, Batman's enemy. I was like, oh, I know him. So I got excited.
Hey, it's the Peaky Blinders guy.
Yeah. Diba? Oh, he has an accent here. Mga like that. So
yes.
I really enjoyed it. And the way it was shot also, that was one of the first things I noticed because it was so different. Like you were coming from anywhere, from inside the car, you're shooting from inside the car.
Oh yeah, his angles are so so weird.
In the grocery,
jarring.
So I found that so interesting that I felt like it was a blend of like found footage kind of style plus film. Because everything was shaky and I was like, oh, okay, I feel like how chaotic.
Did you like it, Aaron?
I loved
in that way, in the look. I mean, the look. Like aside, obviously, I think at the beginning you're like, wow, this looks really grainy and like really. Did you think it added to the story, or did you enjoy the treatment, or?
In general, I'm a fan of movies that look like that make it look like, oh, it's real. Found footage, or I'm really there inside where they are. I'm a fan of that kind of shooting just because I find it more relatable. Like, parang, oh, it makes me more scared because parang, I'm there with them.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. But I feel like the treatment really added to my experience. It made it scarier for me.
You watched it what was your experience, Chris, watching it? I assume you were. Yeah, you're a little younger than me, but you were in college, right? So
I was 100% blown away.
Yeah.
2002, I just got out of college, so yeah, I was entirely blown away. Look at Aaron laughing at us oldies, but yeah, I was super blown away. I really really enjoyed it, and then like that's why I brought up the running zombies, because I didn't understand the discourse behind it. I didn't know the zombie lore was so precious. No, you can't touch it. No. And because I thought it was like the scariest portrayal of zombies I'd ever seen. Like you're right, like lumbering zombies. It never scared me. I watch all the Romero films now, and I absolutely love them. They're incredible films, but I never was scared.
Because it's not a real threat. Like
it's not a
if you're
real threat.
slow,
Yeah.
I can kill you. It's fine. These
Yeah,
guys,
like-
Yeah,
rapid
Exactly.
succession. The moment you're infected, biglang, you start doing
Exactly.
that.
You need that. Like I read Max Brooks' book. What do you call this?
Zombie
the-
survival guide.
No, the
World War
his
Z.
World War Z, yeah. And then
Yeah.
he's basically like, guys just fucking hide out, and then like they'll die out eventually.
Yeah.
You know, like so that's what I feel about zombies. So you have to make them scarier somehow.
Yeah, the fear
Yeah,
has
you know,
to be there.
Yeah, like yeah. So running zombies, I think are so brilliant. And then this really set the template, and then it's been followed ever since. Ever since this movie came out, wala nang lumbering zombies.
True. Train to Busan,
mean-
tumatakbo na sila eh.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
What I don't like about running, like lumbering zombies, at least I was never a zombie guy either. And
Yeah.
growing up, the reason why I didn't like zombie movies was the deaths that occur because of zombies were always so contrived for me. Just for me.
mhm.
Sorry,
Sure, sure,
audience. Like you'd always have like one of the characters leaning against a window, and then a zombie would grab them from behind the window.
Sure,
It
sure.
always was that.
It always has to be a surprise. Like yeah.
It always has to be a
That's your
surprise or a
cheat,
certain
yeah.
situation where they couldn't get away from this intrinsically easy to get away from monster.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. We're gonna get some shit talk from zombie purists.
No, but
guys.
in this-
Sorry.
in defense of that, having had the chance to, just thanks to 28 Days Later, I wanted to learn more and just delve into the zombie genre. I think in defense of like what we call the slower zombies and I think the intent of what those monsters were was never meant to be that they could catch you, but
Yes.
like instantly. It was more of like
the dread.
it was more of like the dread in the sense that they're not going to catch you now, but they
Mhm.
will.
But
In the
they'll
sense
catch
that
up
they
to you
will
later. Yeah.
they will never stop. They will always be this relentless wave of like
Yeah.
thousands eventually coming towards you.
Mhm.
And at some
it's your
point,
anxiety and your paranoia.
correct. Yeah. So I see now, and I appreciate so much more now, why those types of zombies began in the sense that it was always meant to be more of like, a commentary for the real world issues that we have. I mean, it sounds artsy fartsy and pseudo intellectual, but in many ways, it actually is quite scarier because it becomes more of like a metaphor for like
Yeah.
the real
Yeah.
world stuff
No,
that we
I
have,
get
the
it. Yeah.
pandemic. And
I
all
mean,
these
we
things.
are in a pandemic
Exactly.
with a virus.
So that guy that you were dating, and who thought
Back to
that
him.
who thought that a zombie virus could happen? I mean, really, like it actually could. I mean, maybe not in the way that we see it on cinema, but I mean, just 2 years ago, like none of us thought that something like this would happen, that we would all be wearing
Correct.
face masks or be like isolated in our homes. And yet here we are, and it happened. And we're only starting to just kind of like step out of our homes now.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
and yeah, so for me, so ever since 28 Days Later and throughout the years, the zombie subgenre and horror has become like many ways my favorite, because
Mhm.
now I realize more than any movie monster, zombies are kind of like the ones that feel closest to home, or kind of remind me the most of what could really happen in terms of what's happening to us now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
What I like about the zombie genre, I mean, it doesn't happen in every single movie, no, but it's basically like really at its heart, it's really the main message of zombie movies is they're not the villains. It's always the
Yes.
humans that are the villains.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
like the zombies are just act on instinct, but humans are just inherently evil.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like
I love that,
always.
yeah.
So
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so like yeah, that's really the general story for everything, and it just makes you kind of
Yeah.
hate your life.
I lost so much hope when that lieutenant said, I promised them women. I was like,
Uh-huh.
What?
Oh,
Yeah.
my God. Like, it was really
Yep.
like, dude, I
Yep.
thought we were okay na. Then I pressed
Mhm.
pause. I was like, halfway pa lang to? Halfway? What else is gonna happen here? I was feeling
Yep.
like, whoa, stress.
Yep,
I was
buckle up.
texting
you
our
were
chat
sending
group.
us some messages, Arna. Parang you were really
I
into
was
it.
stressed.
Yeah.
I was super stressed.
No,
Like,
I think Chris nailed it right on the head. And that's, for me, that's the best zombie movies, or the ones I love at least, are the ones that kind of shine the light on how ugly humans actually are. Because, and that comes out a lot in the Walking Dead series, both the
Yeah.
book and the TV series, is that in that series, the zombies are almost like just external things around
Yeah.
them, and it's really the ugliness of what the people go through, and the relationships that are, either bonded or frayed, that creates all the drama. And in 28 Days, that's exactly what happens. So you think they found refuge, when you realize, oh crap, the real monsters in this film are actually the army, the soldiers,
And
and
the whole time they thought they were the
the
saviors.
heroes.
yeah. You know what they
Yeah.
reminded me of? They reminded me of, like, if the kids from Lord of the Flies became adults
Sure.
and became soldiers. And I was
Yeah.
like, and then that was so disturbing for me. I was like, oh my God, they went out of their way to do like this distress signal only just so they could lure women,
Mhm.
so that they could, like, have their way and repopulate. And yeah, that was really disturbing.
Yeah, that was so bad, especially because, being a girl, thinking about, because these themes of post-apocalyptic things are always the same, where they show that, people are inherently evil. And it's always in books that I've read, like I read this book called Blindness, where everyone goes blind. The chaos always happens to the women.
Oh,
It's
okay.
always like laging inaapi, and this wasn't any different. So for me, that was extra. Bata pa si, what's her name?
Hannah, that's right.
Hannah.
Oh my God, yes,
She
that's
was
right.
young. So I was like, holy shit, this is okay. This is
Wild.
reality. It could be, because you hear
Yeah.
of these
Could be.
stories.
Yeah.
Suck the little. Hey,
So it really bothered me when the lieutenant said that they were actually luring women for the soldiers. And Hannah was a young girl, and her dad had just died. It's the worst. And then she had pills. But like, it was just so like, no, what's happening? So I totally understood the frustration of Selena when she
Yes.
started crying and saying, because he said she'll cope. I don't want her to cope. I want her to be okay. And I was like, yes,
Yeah, that was a good line. Yeah.
correct. Like, oh,
And
man.
it's so good, like her character arc as being
Yes.
someone who's just so cold, and then she's
Yes.
like, "No, I'm just gonna kill my friend Michael." Like with like nothing, like
Yeah.
I'm just so cold. Like I can separate it, but like she
Yeah.
has a heart, at the end.
Yeah.
It's so good.
She had a nice arc in the sense that her moral compass at the start of the film is all about herself and self-preservation and survival. But as their journey goes on, as they go on a road trip, you see little moments, and it's not even dialogue driven. You see little moments between her and Hannah. They're playing cards in the back of the car. They're having little moments in the grocery, eating food.
Yeah.
And you can see they're being girls. They're connecting, and that's all it needs. And for me, that was such a great example of showing character development without having to overwrite dialogue. And Aaron was absolutely right. That scene when when she says, I just want her to be okay. And then her realizing that the soldiers want them for a diabolical purpose.
Oh my God.
And her shifting back into survival mode. But did you notice she's not trying to protect herself, but she's trying to protect Hannah?
Yeah.
Yes.
She gives
Yeah.
Hannah the sedatives in the sense that I don't want you to feel this, and giving her the drugs so that, if they do anything to her, she won't feel it. That was such a great, moment for her
Grabe
character.
yun. And to
Yeah.
think of that, even because when she said that, I'll give you this so you won't feel it. I was like, oh, wow, that's so
God.
dark to think
Yes.
of that.
So
like,
dark.
Yeah.
Oh,
But again, going back to the soldiers, right? And us talking about how zombie movies are really just more of a backdrop for the real horror, which is like the horror of humanity. Like, I think the soldiers ultimately reveal themselves to be like, the true horror of this film. And then, like what I was saying, they reminded me very much of like, what would happen if the kids from Lord of the Flies became soldiers and became this way? That's how they were acting like infants. They would have all these infantile jokes and just act like buffoons, which made them so unpredictable. And they had guns. They had all these like crazy, automatic
and they
rifles.
weren't even saving their ammo. They were like so.
Yeah. When the tripwire goes up and the alarms go, and you see the zombies running towards them in the field, and they just go trigger happy and they go full on just crazy, like gun crazy. That and then it dawns on both Jim and Selena, like, oh shit, like these guys aren't quite who we thought they were. Yeah. Yep.
It was so crazy.
I also want to talk about the ending because
yes,
like zombie films get the general rap that they're depressing and down. They always end on a downer. Dawn of the Dead, the original one, is like one of the most shocking endings I've ever seen. George Romero, the black and white, where basically our main character, this black man, survives the whole film.
Night of the Living Dead.
Sorry, Night of the Living Dead.
Yes,
survives the entire film in the house, fighting all these zombies. And he goes outside during dawn and fucking, pack of white men just shoot him.
Oh,
and they just assume that he's a zombie. And it's like the most depressing thing in the world. Like, wow, he fought his way to only be killed by a bunch of racists, and it's kind of set the template when zombie films are depressing. Like the endings are always just like there's no hope, and that's what I loved about this movie so much, because like it was hopeful at the end. Like they survived, and I really felt like it was an earned survival too. They went through so much, and like so the survival was sweeter for me. That's why I really love the end.
And I'm so glad that was the ending they used, because they had several other alternate endings. And one of which was when one version, and I think Maui mentioned that, is one version is Jim doesn't make it. As soon after he gets shot by Chris Eccleston, one alternate ending was that he dies, and it's just Hannah and Selena surviving, and they still see the plane. I mean, it would have still been a nice, optimistic, upbeat ending, but like what I was sharing with you guys earlier, for me, that final image of Jim, staring out into the sky and just a very hopeful smile on his face, and then a hard cut to black. For me, I thought, God damn, that's how you. Yes, that's how you end it. Like you could have easily been so overwrought and have like a helicopter
plane landing,
helicopter
landing, and them running towards it.
Yeah,
and he's inside the helicopter looking out on the destroyed.
You don't need it. Yeah. You don't need
countryside.
it. Yep. Everything you needed to know about hope and just like the optimism was all in like Cillian Murphy's like dreamy blue eyes.
yeah, exactly. I love the ending so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
So sweet. So sweet.
Yeah, so good choice. That was the ending that they used. Yeah.
Oh my God! And there's one alternate ending which is so bad, which is he wakes up and it was all a dream.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Like, are you kidding me?
Wait a minute. What was all a dream? Like the whole zombie thing?
Yeah.
So he was just in a coma?
He was just in a coma. That is the worst.
Even in improv, that's like Daya.
It's the worst.
If someone does that in improv, we're like, dude, you just cheated the entire audience
cheated.
right now.
Yeah.
Yes. It's almost
what do you guys
like,
think about the... Sorry.
Oh, go. Sorry.
So, go ahead, Maui.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the fourth ending, though? If you're aware.
Which was it? Which was the fourth ending?
It was storyboarded, but it was never shot. So Frank, instead of being killed by the soldiers, and instead of soldiers,
he gets a blood transfusion. I remember that.
Yeah, he gets a blood transfusion. And the thing is, for someone, they found a cure, and for you to be cured for you to be cured of the rage virus, you have to have a complete blood transfusion from someone who's not infected. And guess who volunteers to give his blood?
Jim. Jim dies and everything, right?
Yeah, so Jim, I think they swap blood pa nga eh. Parang that's the...
That makes no sense whatsoever. Like,
it sounds really convoluted. And at that point in the movie, you're like, do we really want to know more logistics as to what the cure is? It seems so beside the point.
Yeah.
So I'm glad.
I'm so happy they settled on the right ending.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
same.
Yep. I agree. But
I like that.
again, a fascinating insight into filmmaking, and that it's nice to know that filmmakers like Danny Boyle and Alex Garland, also have moments of uncertainty, like with their producing partners, and say, "Crap, like which ending is the right one?" Like they probably screened it to tons of people and got varying degrees of response. And I'm glad whoever said, guys, let's stick to the shot of Cillian Murphy staring out into the sky. That's what's gonna make
So
our
right.
money back. Yeah.
I also want to bring up since we haven't talked about him, Alex Garland.
Yes.
He's an incredible writer.
Yes. Who's also become such an accomplished director in his own
Become
right.
such an accomplished director, and then I love the fact that he really still kind of dabbles in horror. And I feel so lucky that he does still dabble in it. And I don't know if have you seen
The trailer.
Annihilation?
Yes, I have. His new he's got a new film coming out, right?
Oh man,
Men.
Yeah.
Men.
yeah, that looks really fucked up, and I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, trailer looks
But,
creepy as hell. Yes.
I really
Alan.
love Ex Machina. Definitely.
That's
Yes.
him also?
Garland.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so I'm only
Sunshine.
starting to know what he's directing because of what you're saying. Like when you said
Yeah.
James Bond, I'm like, oh, okay. And then you mentioned another movie.
Oh
And
no,
I was
so,
like,
so,
what?
so that's
Annihilation.
the writer. So that's the writer, say Alex Garland. The director,
Joe.
Danny Boyle, is different. This is his only horror movie, right?
Well, I guess you could argue that Shallow Grave is
Grave-ish. Yeah.
It's I guess almost like a self-contained horror. I would also put in 127 hours in there as a horror, because Jesus Christ, that movie
That's
also
pretty horrifying.
Shut it up.
horrified the crap
Yes.
out of me. Yeah.
That's pretty horrifying.
Yeah, the movie of James Franco as the
Yeah, I saw that one.
adventurer who gets stuck in a rock.
Do you
and-
see the similarities, Aaron? Like this is like his weird angles, like the camera's fucking everywhere. And
Yeah.
I don't remember that so much in 127.
Okay.
He
I don't
he
remember.
also makes use of the James Franco character uses his video
GoPro.
camera to
Yeah.
or I think it was like a handicap to
It was
document
a
a
GoPro,
lot of the narrative, which is interesting. And that's what I love about Alex Garland. He, like, if there's one word I would use to describe him, it would be kinetic. Like every movie you see that he does, I think just has that distinct style where he's not afraid to kind of put the camera in different places or experiment with different frame rates. Like in 28 Days Later, he really makes use of like the best parts of the Canon XL1, which is like the high shutter speed. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
Play around with the shutter.
Oh, I love
and
that.
create that frenetic high shutter effect.
So good.
So he does that. So he's really one of my favorite filmmakers in the sense that he's just so kinetic. Like he's just such an active visual storyteller.
Yeah.
And I love the fact.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he goes to different genres. He's not pigeonholed as just like someone who does horror. Like he does musicals. Like he did Slumdog. He did A Life Less Ordinary. He can do all these different types of movies, and yet when you see it, you're like, oh, this looks like a Danny Boyle movie, and it's because of his style.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we are slowly converting, Aaron.
That's
Slowly.
converting. I'm just sponging
into
all
becoming
this information.
a film into film appreciation. Like for
You have to
for
understand.
style
I've
and-
been hearing this all growing up. So for me, it's like, no. But now that I have a little bit more interest in it, okay, like my dad made me watch the most disturbing shit at like 11. I'm like, why am I watching this? Why are you doing this? So I do get a little bit, but now I'm starting to get interested.
I'm grateful for my dad for letting me watch disturbing shit when I was a kid. Like I realized that it didn't affect me as negatively as what society assumed it would be. Like I actually appreciate, like I mentioned that before with Jaws. Like I was so grateful that he showed me Jaws at that age. So I'm starting to show my kids slightly scary movies. But yeah, and then I think
that was one of the things we talked about in our last episode, Carlo. Wait,
okay.
Your son is 10, is he?
He's turning 10.
Oh, you said in the last episode that you would show him
Yes,
an actual
I said
horror
that.
film.
And here, okay, I have a funny story about that. And I remember that I finally psyched him up to watch it. And this was around the time he was also learning how to swim with goggles and start to snorkel. And I'm not joking. On the night we were about to watch it, he suddenly paused and said, "Dad, I don't think I want to watch it." I said, "What? But you're six. You're six. It's time.
It's time.
And to his credit, he actually kind of like took a step back and said, "No, Dad, I think I'm good." I said, "Why don't you want to watch it?" Dad? He goes, "Because I don't want to have any sort of." He said in his own terms, but the gist of it was, "I don't want to have any sort of fear while I'm swimming in the ocean." I said,
"That's nice."
I said,
Nice.
"Okay, fair enough, fair enough. That's fine."
Fair enough.
And okay, so to this day, so the answer to that is, no, he has not seen Jaws yet, and that's fine. You know, I've shown him other things like Gremlins and things.
Maybe you should show him a Sharknado. Like sharks are not in the water.
Yeah.
They're in the air.
Yeah. And he loves sharks now. He loves sharks. He loves crocodiles, as any 10-year-old would. So when the time comes, you know, I think he'll tell me when he's ready. Yeah.
We have to be careful before we traumatize our children.
Exactly. Zombies. He's only seen like cartoon zombies. I think I'll hold off a little bit only because I think zombies have a bit more, like I said, the realism of them, I think, is what makes them terrifying. So I think him and my younger daughter, I think them seeing zombies of that 28 days later level, I think might be a bit too much.
Yeah, it's too much.
Only because you're seeing
blood and
arterial spray, you know, necks getting torn apart and things like that. So maybe not quite yet.
Yeah, that'll be a bit too intense. I think this is like this is a strictly 18-year-old.
Yeah, my abuse joke, like abuse by women, like it's too much. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Even I got a little like, whoa. So, a child.
But again, going back to that, no, like realizing that, oh shit, humans are really the true monsters in zombie films. 28 days later kind of like opened this box, this Pandora's box for me and pushed me towards my love for post-apocalyptic movies. So because of that, like I'm so drawn to you know, post-apocalyptic stories and films, because these are movies that for me are closest to home, and then for me are parang things that could happen. And when COVID happened, it made me realize like it could happen. So I'm so drawn to that. Like, one of my favorite
in 30 days.
When people ask me, "Oh, hey Carlo, what's your favorite zombie movie?" I'll say my answer to that will be 28 Days Later. But I'll say,
"Oh, nice."
My next favorite zombie movie, which isn't quite a zombie movie but has a similar theme, would be The Road by
oh my God, so good,
with Viggo Mortensen. If you remember that.
Cormac McCarthy. Beautiful.
Yeah, that movie, I do not think I could watch now, only because I'm a father now. I watched it when I was living in Australia, so I was still, I wasn't a father yet, and I remember being so deeply moved and disturbed by what was going on in that movie. And I think if I were to watch it now as a dad, I'd probably pass out or I'd probably black out from the sheer stress of it. Only because I don't know if all of you have seen it. It's basically it's a movie set in the apocalypse, and it's about a father and son, and it's him just trying to keep his son alive amidst this society with cannibals and just crazy fucked up people and starvation and no resources, and him just being a dad. And for me, that's the gist, I think, of what zombie movies are. It's just, you know, like us dealing with the potential of a post-apocalyptic world, and having to deal with the consequences of what we do as human beings.
I can't watch.
Watch The Road. It's lovely.
It's lovely.
I can't take I can't take father-son movies anymore. Like,
oh my God.
In that sense, like, oh God, it's just so difficult.
There's one scene. Sorry, I'm going to go into a bit of spoiler. There's one scene where they're being cornered by a bunch of crazy people who may or may not rape them. He just holds a gun to his son's head and he basically says, if they catch us, like, I'm just gonna pull this trigger because I'd rather my son die than these disgusting things happen to him. And it's that level of heartbreaking that's crazy. So yeah. So once again, watch the lovely film. There's called
It's a beautiful film about life and roses and
But I feel you, Chris. I think and I mentioned this to you before. It's like horror films hit differently as a parent.
Super.
The horror films that that are about family or parenthood. Oh, geez, I cannot. It's just
even just the beginning of this movie. I saw I noticed the note that his parents wrote. Like, we left you
heartbreaking.
That was such
we're gonna sleep.
Heartbreaking.
Oh yes,
we'll sleep with you. Wow.
It was
so
he comes home and the mom is dead, and then he sees that she's clutching a photo, right, of him as a kid,
as a baby.
And then the note said, Jim, because they left him sleeping in a coma in the hospital. We left you sleeping, but we're joining you now.
And then don't wake up.
Don't wake up.
Yeah.
That
was wild.
Yes. But
Frank and Hannah pa lang, nahirapan na ako.
Yes. Can we talk about Frank and Hannah? Because I love them so much. When I think when we get to that point in the story and we meet them, you're so drawn to both of them, only because, well, one, Brendan Gleeson is just such a bear.
Yeah.
You know, he's such a lovable.
Yes,
I mean, we see him in other roles wherein he's just an absolute menacing character, but it's credit to him as an amazing actor that he can in this movie just be such like a typical dad. And for me, I actually feel like the story picks up when we meet them.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Like everything up until that point is just so damn bleak. And I think it was such a good creative choice for the writers to be like, you know what? I think we need to introduce some new characters here because it's getting
the first time he takes off his mask.
He's like smiling.
Big guy.
I'm Frank.
Okay.
What's your name?
Right.
Hannah, come here.
And I think that was such a good creative choice to introduce them. And then deep down, oh crap, oh my God, one of these people are gonna die. Oh my God, it's Brendan Gleeson, isn't it? You know, as a lover of movies, like, oh shit, one of these, like, he's gonna die because there's no way he's so likable and he's gonna survive. And no, it's gonna happen. But at the same time, you latch onto them because, you realize he's a taxi driver. Oh, they've got this quirky little, British taxi and they use it to go off onto this epic road trip. And from there, for me, that's when the story kind of developed its legs and kind of picked up in the sense that, you've got two more characters that bring out the really good aspects of Selena, especially. Like what I mentioned earlier is she's able to bond with Hannah and create and bring out and break her shell of being like this protective human being. And that scene when Frank gets infected is absolutely heartbreaking.
So painful.
He physically shoves Hannah to the ground and he says, I love you very much. And you're like, mother, oh my God. And he gets gunned down. It's fuck. And you know what? And do you guys realize, or Chris, do you realize that moment has become such a trope in zombie stories?
Yes.
Wherein a loved one gets bitten.
A loved one. And he's like, get away from me.
Yeah. And
don't touch me.
I'm sure it's been done in zombie films before that. But, it's almost like standard fare wherein there has to be a moment where a loved one gets bitten. And it has to be that, that final moment of, I love you.
I love you, but I'm not going to be myself in a few seconds.
Before the turn, and you know what? It's a trope that I embrace. Like, I think it almost needs to be there in a zombie film. And in the same way, wherein if it's a vampire film, at some point, the vampire has to burst into flames when they step into sunlight. I think with a zombie film, what makes the genre strong is when there has to be a loved one that gets bitten and they have to say their goodbyes.
They have to say goodbye.
Right.
Yep. Emotional.
More wine.
Aaron, what like I'm super interested in your take as someone who saw it for the first time.
Yes.
What was more fun about the movie, the emotion or the action?
You know what? I mean, I was sending you guys videos. So while I was watching this movie in our group chat, I was sending videos of myself reacting to certain scenes. And
That's awesome.
it gave me the feeling that I like while watching scary movies. That suspense. Especially pag alam mo when it's quiet, you know when he's walking through some quiet place, you know something's gonna happen, right? So you're there, like I'm there by my pillow, just watching and taking a video of myself yelling at the TV. I like it. I enjoy it. It was effective in the way horror movies are effective for me. Plus, it got emotional, which is always a bonus. So
Yeah.
I really, really liked it.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Which means to say, I mean, if you've only watched it recently, I think
Today.
it's safe to say today. It's safe to say that the movie holds up.
Yeah.
20
for real.
years.
For
20
me,
years later.
seeing it again, I watched it again yesterday. It 100% holds up. I think I might
Yeah.
actually like it better now than I did seeing it. I've seen it a number of times since it came out, but like now I really really appreciate it. I mean, like I think especially also since I've become a parent since the story emotionally really changed for me. See Frank protecting Hannah and then Selena protecting Hannah. All that stuff holds more weight now.
Yeah. I agree. And do you think it resonates more now because we're almost living in a similar world?
Yes,
Minus the
100%.
blood. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of gotten a bit real since then, huh?
Yeah, we are
Yeah.
surrounded by those soldiers.
Whoa.
They are
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, I like that. Ooh, that's a good metaphor. We
Yeah.
are surrounded by warriors, whether they be in soldier form or in keyboard form.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's so
Such
true.
a good movie.
No, watching it again recently, yeah, I remember watching it in 2002 and thinking, medyo outlandish naman yung premise, a virus, and then and then here we are.
Those were simpler
And here we are
times.
on year 3.
I know.
yeah.
Year 3.
So yeah, that ex-boyfriend of
without
yours, Aaron,
stuck in your-
had some foresight, I think.
Yeah, he had some foresight.
Yeah, so he probably still or still has that go bag or is it
Siguro.
Diego still has that go bag. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Okay, last question before we wrap up. Zombie apocalypse. What's your weapon of choice?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, you guys go. Great. That's a great question.
Hack and slash weapon for me. Like
Ako
like
far distance weapon.
far distance. Okay.
Because I don't want to go near. Like bow and arrow or gun.
Bow and arrow. Yeah, quiet. Yeah,
Damn.
This is the rage virus we're talking about. So whatever blood spray that results from it, you need to be far away. So tama si Aaron. You can't be too close from
better
And I
practice
don't
your bow and
want
arrow.
to. They're so ugly. I don't want to go near them.
But
to
Aaron,
kill them.
a bow and arrow needs a very high ratio
Yun lang.
of like accuracy.
Accuracy.
So
Correct.
the problem
That's
with that is
true.
what if you miss? Unless you
Yun lang.
suddenly become like one of the badass characters from Walking Dead who's just like super accurate with a
perfect.
bow and arrow,
Yeah.
then you would.
Yeah.
I personally would opt for a safe, good old shotgun. Like, di bala na if it
Shotgun.
makes noise, pero at least yung hit ratio.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
Yeah.
Madali or just run.
Grenade, yan. Grenade.
Yeah, but the shrapnel could hit you as you're running away.
That's true.
Frank had the right idea, the riot shield and the
Yeah,
Yes.
that's cool.
like at the beginning. Yeah, he had the right idea. The shield and the baton so that he's protected from the spray.
And he has a
he doesn't-
weapon. Yeah.
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 But
Oh.
limited to tight corners.
Yeah.
Tight corner. Yeah, exactly. It's a short weapon.
Well, I have a question of my own. Like, if 28 days later kind of reinvigorated, the zombie genre, and since then, so many like kind of versions of it have sprung up. Several of which I love. I did you guys notice as well? Like, a lot of the really good zombie movies have been like horror comedies, like Shaun of the Dead,
Zombie
Yes.
Land.
Yeah, things like that. One Cut
Warm
of the Dead,
Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
Yeah. Sure.
My question there is, why do you think the zombie genre transitions so well into like a horror comedy? Like, why do you think
I
that
think
is?
I have I personally think that it transitions well is because, as you said earlier, a good zombie movie isn't about the zombies, but it's about the human drama, the human challenges
Yeah.
that occur within that world. That's why we love 28 Days Later. It focuses on the trials and tribulations of Jim and company, right? So, like, regardless of what actual genre the movie is, like, we're going to be focusing on the humans anyway. So
Nice.
it can be comedy,
Yeah.
it can be horror, it can be drama, what have you. As long as you have a good story within that zombie world, a good story, it will
Yes.
work. At least for me.
Awesome.
That makes sense.
Absolutely
sense.
right. Spot on.
Agreed.
Spot on. Nice.
Nice.
All right. So we have come to the part of the podcast where we give our last thoughts on the movie. And I would like to start. So I've been saving this.
Oh,
I've been
awesome.
saving
Okay.
this. So one of my favorite things about the movie was the fact that it showed that people are still social creatures. Because Selena said that surviving and making it on your own is as good as it gets. But then as soon as she bonded with Hannah and with Frank and they all became like this one barkada, she said, I was wrong. This is as good as it gets. And I was like, yes. And we found that out in the
Awesome.
pandemic because we need people. Like, we need to talk to people. Pala, we think we're hermits, but we kind of need that social
Yeah.
That was a
activity,
great point.
right? I love that part. So that's what
that is
stuck
a
with
great
me.
that is a great insight. Wow, I just realized Selena might just be my favorite character now. She's actually the one that has the most growth,
Character
no?
development.
Or the biggest arc.
Yes.
And I think Arnie nailed it right on the head by saying that particular moment.
It was that moment. That I was
Yes.
like, oh, yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, galing.
Yeah. So Maui?
Mommy?
I'm sure Chris and Carla will say a lot more than I will. So I'm going to be focusing on the film itself as a catalyst.
Yeah.
Like, it came out in 2002 and it was a catalyst, especially for, I was a sophomore student back then. And it came out, at least I haven't graduated yet.
Hey,
You know.
I'm not laughing. Aaron, can you make an insult? Can you insult Aaron and not me?
Hirap eh.
Anywho,
I love the movie for the fact that it came at a time when it needed to catalyze, when it needed to motivate people like me who wanted to be filmmakers into realizing that I didn't need film. I didn't need access to film. And I didn't have access to film back then. Like, we had to fend for ourselves, use camcorders and, you know, XL1. I only got to hold an XL1 2003. Nah. So, you know, like 28 days later, told everyone, hey, story is king. It's really not the sword that you wield, but how you wield it. And this story was shot on a device that you could get or something like it. And, you know, so just go out and shoot your zombie film wherever you may be. And that's why I like 28 Days Later.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Nice.
I'll go next. My thing with 28 Days Later is it holds up so well for a movie that was shot 20 years ago with technology that is obsolete right now. And that's so echoing what you said, Maui. It's really not the technology. It's really filmmaking and storytelling, which is timeless. And wow, I like I said earlier, I really think that my viewing of this movie yesterday is my favorite viewing of the film.
Nice.
And I've seen it quite a few times. I saw it when it came out. I've seen it a number of times since this came out because I really love it. I love Danny Boyle. I love zombies in general. I love horror in general. And this is such a seminal film. I think yesterday was actually my favorite viewing of the film. And it just speaks volumes about how it was made. And so very, very thankful you chose this, Carlo.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just gonna piggyback on your answers and say the same thing. I'm grateful for this film because it it inspired me to not just look further into what zombie movies truly were, but just to, again, like to echo what you guys said, just be inspired by focusing on telling a good story as opposed to dwelling so much on gear or equipment. Like really, it's all about the tools that we have in front of us. And I think we're now, the silver lining with what we're doing now is as we're leaving our own version of the apocalypse. And I cross my fingers that, like the worst is over. We're actually quite blessed to have access to all these, amazing tools are at disposal. But the one thing I'll always look at with films like 28 Days Later is that, Maui said it right. It should be story first and focusing on telling a good story. And for me, 28 Days Later is a film that is a good story and continues to be 20 years later.
Yeah.
Love it.
I love that.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you for giving me the chance to just gush about it.
I have a feeling you're going to be back again.
What do we talk about next?
100%. 100%.
Right?
We're
Thank
definitely
you.
like this is if we can have our way, this is going to be an annual event.
Oh, dude, anytime. And again, you guys are telling in your own way, telling such great stories by getting all these interesting people and sharing their own love stories with the horror movies that scared the pants out of them. And keep doing that, guys, because it's great. Like I love listening to you guys in traffic.
Oh, it's awesome. I love.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that.
It's awesome.
Stop.
No, you stop.
No, you.
No, you.
No, you.
Oh, stop it, guys.
All right. So thank you so much, Carlo, for being here again for your second time. We're sure that you're going to be back again. And is there anything that you want the listeners to know about what you're doing now? Are you doing anything new that we can watch out for?
The other than writing scripts, my dream and which I'm trying to claim into the universe is I have a zombie story of my own which I would love to bring into the world soon. So I can't really say anything much about it yet. But I'm throwing it out there and hoping that COVID restrictions finally like open up and allow me to shoot that movie. Because I feel like I've got a zombie movie or two like stashed away inside me. So I just can't wait to kind of shoot that and tell it. So
That's
you guys want to be
awesome.
zombies?
Nice.
Hell yeah.
God, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
It'll be fun, right? Like, so yeah, I'll let you guys know if and when.
100%.
Oh man,
do
I
that.
cannot
Let's do
wait
that.
for this to happen. I can't wait for your movies, whatever
Let's do that.
is
I
the
know.
next one.
COVID really, killed a lot of filmmaker momentum, but I think people are going to be back with a vengeance now that the world is open.
Absolutely, 100%.
But let's do it. Let's do it.
For
Thank
sure.
you guys.
Man.
Yeah, awesome.
So
Thank
excited.
you. So
Thank you
thank
so much, Carlo.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank
again
you.
for being
Thank you.
here. And for those listening, we hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. So once again, before we go, please join our Facebook group, Dead Air, a Horror fan page. Like our Facebook page, Dead Air, a Horror podcast. And message relentlessly our Instagram at Dead Air Pod. If you have any suggestions of guests or movies that you'd like us to talk about, please let us know. So thanks everyone, and we hope you enjoyed this episode and have a great day. Bye.
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 They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Brought to you by Big Baby Studios.